guys. Hope you're doing good. I'm going to start a new series. It's called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. And it's going to be talking about the life of Joseph. And so I'm just going to start this week, essentially just kind of introing this. Excited to get together tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you're there. Zoom, we're going to be doing a game all together before we do breakout sessions. I found out how we can do that all as a large group. So it's going to be fun. But anyways, do you ever feel like you're living in two different worlds, right? Like you've got your world at school with your friends, right? And you've got this world at home, this life that you have. There's things that I do when I'm at home that I don't do in public. I will admit I watch maybe too much Winnie the Pooh with a 2-year-old daughter. And so I may or may not have Winnie the Pooh songs stuck in my head that I pretty much will sing out loud because I've got someone who sings with me. And but I don't usually do that in public. But we all have things that we probably do when we're at home that we don't do in public. Like, would you ever imagine being at a friend's house, going up the stairs, and you just throw your dirty socks, smelly gym socks on the floor or on the stairs? But we oftentimes do that at home. Or, the way that you talk to your coach or teacher. Could you imagine the way you talk to your stepmom or your cousin or your brother or sister? Would you talk to your coach or your teacher that way? Someone from your home world, what would that look like in that other world at school, right? Or, even if you're mean to a teammate, like you wouldn't probably last that long, but yet our siblings, like our brothers and sisters, man, we can be ruthless and mean to them, right? It's kind of crazy. How is that possible that we have these two different ways? We act in two completely different ways. There's a lot of reasons, but one reason I think is oftentimes we think it's like, this is my home, or it's my world and everybody else is just living in my world, right? It's so easy for us to get caught up in this cycle of thinking. And one question that oftentimes comes up is you'd say, how does this affect me? Right? How does it affect me? Oh, wait, so I have to babysit instead of hanging out with my friends? How does that affect me? Well, I think that's not fair. And right, I'm going to have some attitude because I don't think that's fair. And I'm really upset that I have to babysit. Or maybe you study hard for a test and one of your brothers or sisters, they're scrolling through TikTok all night and they end up getting an A. You think they don't deserve an A, right? How would they get that? I'm so annoyed, and I'm going to treat them that way, that I'm annoyed with them. It's easy. We respond to things that affect us, and people that are in our house are responding to how we are affecting them. So the question is, what do we do about it? What do we do when things are tough at home, when the mood is off, when you know that you're part of the reason that things are tense, but you have no idea what to do about it? You don't have to tell me that your family life is hard, right? The good news is that this isn't something new. We're going to talk about Joseph's life, and if you could imagine, right, Joseph, his dad essentially wanted to marry one girl and got tricked into marrying the older daughter. And so had to work 7 more years to marry the younger daughter, so the sister. So he married sisters, so he has 2 wives, right? He ended up having kids with actually 2 other women as well, had 12 sons. And so, talk about drama. We're going to be talking about family drama, essentially, in different capacities and things. So it's going to be a really interesting series. I'm really excited about it. But, Joseph was the youngest of his siblings, and yet it was one The father, he loved Joseph's mother the most, and yet she was the one who couldn't have kids. And so when Joseph was born, he was this one child from the one wife that he loved the most. And so Joseph got this robe, right? You could imagine it like the new pair of Jordans, or, whatever, it was the hot thing, right? This was like a big deal. And so the youngest in the family got this robe, and it was not just that, but then Joseph has these dreams, right? He says this in Genesis 37. He says, "Brothers, listen, I had a dream. We're binding sheaves of grain out in the field, and suddenly a sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." Here's the young brother basically telling his older siblings, "Guys, I think I'm going to rule you guys when I get older. You're going to bow down to me." Right? Could you imagine that? Right? One dad, 4 moms, 12 boys. And yet Joseph was probably behaving the way that we oftentimes are. We're hyper aware of how we're being treated, but we're not really aware of how we affect other people in our family, in our home. Joseph's family was the same way, right? All Joseph's brothers could see was injustice, right? And unfairness. It wasn't fair that the youngest brother had the coat of many colors. But even though these verses, right, talk about more than just strange dreams or things, right, than a coat, we still read it today for these reasons. 1, to show us family has always been complicated. 2, to teach us to pay attention to our actions and even how our situations affect the people that we live with. And 3, to remind us that tension left unresolved will never just go away. It will always escalate into something bigger. And next week we're going to talk about that and how things just escalated in Joseph's situation into kind of a biblical dumpster fire. But what could have people in the family done differently, right? So if you know the story, you could kind of connect it. But, Joseph had these dreams and shared them and stuff. Well, Joseph could maybe have seen himself as part of the problem, as one person in a large family instead of the person that was at the center of it, right? The spoiled one who didn't have to necessarily work, and he had this colored coat. Dad loved him the most. He made sure he knew it, right? Maybe Dad could have recognized that his favoritism was actually impacting the whole family, right? Everybody. Maybe the brothers could have just chilled out, right? And maybe not had so many grudges or gossip so much. Or everybody could have maybe ignored Joseph's dreams and not allowed that insecurity to control them of like, younger brother's going to be ruling over us. This is crazy. So the point is this, guys. Joseph's family drama really isn't much different than our own. And it doesn't matter if you're the firstborn, middle, last, the grumpy one, the happy one, whatever you are, there's a role that you play in your family. And pay attention to how your words and your actions contribute to the tone and the temperature of your family. And you got to decide what role you want to take from here on out. Pay attention. And Paul wrote this letter to the Philippians, and the Philippians really were trying to live together. They were people who were trying to figure out how to live together. So they're almost like family. And so this really applies really nicely. It says this in Philippians 2, 3-8. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature of God did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made for himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. So what do we do when we don't know what to do at our house? You start by paying attention to how we see ourselves. And probably the hardest is we need to invite someone else to speak into our lives, and it's essentially someone who's probably older or wiser. That's a good place to start, a good person to look to when you're not sure what to do. And guys, this is why we have small groups, right? We need people around us to be able to help us navigate and understand these different things that are going on. Family is a big part of our lives, and it can have a lot of different looks, a lot of different dynamics. Whether you're from a great family or from a family with a lot of ups and downs or volatility. And so my prayer for you guys is that as we start this series, that you really open your heart to God and to realizing your role that you play in your family, the tone and the temperature that you set, and really allowing someone to speak into your life, to be able to help you navigate how you're responding to your family. And again, that's why we have small groups. I'm so excited to see everybody tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow. Can't wait. Peace.